David Gross for the Bass Guitar Channel. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. We'll continue with the G Mixolydian flat 6 tomorrow with the 6-string bass, but over the weekend I had a number of students contact me, and it's a 3-day weekend in America. Today is Martin Luther King Day, so it's a federal holiday, so half the businesses are on and off, banks are closed, etc. So one of the questions that I'm getting a lot of is, I have these bad habits. This is from my students. I don't have any bad habits. Well, I don't have any really bad habits. But the problem is, how do I practice? So I read this book a long time ago, a number of years ago, and it was called The 80-20 Principle. It's by a guy by the name of Richard Koch. Koch is spelled C-O-C-H. And the book had an extremely profound effect on me. It really came out of the concept of economic policy in the late 1800s in Italy, go figure, by a guy named Wilfredo Pareto. But the basic gist of it was that 80% of all effort put out brings about 20% results. So that means out of every 10 things you do, 2 of them will create more value than the other 8 combined. So that was kind of depressing until I read a little further, and it said, though, that the 20% creates 80% of your results. So basically it just flips it. It's almost like an inversion in music. So I spent a great deal of time trying to figure out, so what are the important things that I need to do to become a better bass player? And I started writing out a list. You have the paper with the line down the center, the pros, the cons, the pros, the cons. And I came up with a pretty decent list of essential things to do that will increase my playing. So what I'm doing with all of these video lessons is attempting to show you a number of ways to rethink what you're doing. Now, sometimes when I'm snooping around the internet and looking at what other folks are doing, the end result of their teaching practice is to make you sound similar to everybody else. And when I think about that, I think about Jack Bruce. He never sounded like anybody else. He must have been doing something differently. Jocko sounded like no one else. He must have been doing something differently. And the list goes on and on. Anthony Jackson, Jack Cassidy, and even some of the heavy metal guys like Geezer. These folks were doing something that made them stand out. And if you notice, even the people that are doing well today, names that you're very familiar with, basically talk about the Jack Bruces and the people that inspired them, the James Jamesons. So what's the point? Well, the point is there are certain things that are going to make you a better player in all situations. So how I teach, how I like to explain things is, okay, this is how I see it. Now, pick what you like, disregard the rest, and create something. But the difference that I'm trying to articulate with you guys is anything that I'm teaching you can be used in any musical situation. We're not just looking at it from a funk part, from a jazz part, from a rock part. These are skills that work. And frankly, these are the 20% that's going to give you the biggest result. So, where do we begin? Well, the first step is, it's not worth it to practice hours on end if you're not really practicing. So, if you're going to practice, take a finite set of what you're going to do. So let's talk about Friday's G Mixolydian flat 6. I gave you 3 different chord forms that could very well be used with the Mixolydian flat 6 mode. So what would I do with that? Well, obviously I'd play it in the key that it is, G. So it's a G dominant 7, a G sus4, or a G augmented 7th. So I'm going to play that in G, 1 octave, 2 octaves, 3 octaves, everywhere up and down the neck. Yeah, it's a little bit of grunt work, but think of it from another perspective. There is basically 4 to 6 notes that you're going to use that are going to be all over the neck. So that means, since there are 12 notes in a chromatic scale, just by doing the G Mixolydian flat 6, you've learned half of them. Start with your lowest note. So with a G Mixolydian flat 6, you had E flat, so your lowest note is going to be the F. So you start on the flat 7 below the G. Go up as far as you can. That would be the E flat on most jazz and P basses, right? So that takes you where? That takes you to that flat 6, way up the neck. This one situation, this one practice on this one thing is going to matter more than getting in the room and doodling. Playing, practicing, fiddling around, practicing, fiddling around. The key is to practice. And when you practice, practice. So that's my little tip for today. If you want to dig a little deeper into this, give me a ring at my website, www.thebassguitarchannel.com. I'm David C. Gross. Tomorrow, we're going to hit that G Mixolydian flat 6 on this thing, 6-string bass. Take care.